Well, in the run-up to the Hindustan Times Leadership Summit this week, we're looking at the various themes on reshaping India. Tonight, it's been a landmark year for Indian politics, a general election that threw up a BJP government with a strong, overwhelming majority of its own. A party that has had an uneasy relationship with the country's largest minority, Muslims, is now in power. So what does this mean for India's social harmony? Are fears of a breakdown overblown, or can the BJP actually transform the fault lines? We have the BJP's Sudhanshu Trivedi joining us tonight, and Professor Irfan Habib is here in the studio with us. Let me ask Professor Habib first. Do you really believe that, we're now seeing almost 6 months of this government? Have some of those fears about social harmony being, torn apart, have some of those fears been a little overblown?
No, I have I go along with the Prime Minister's statements, which he gives again and again, and he's one of those people who speaks quite frequently and quite in detail. And he has been reassuring us that this government is a government for everybody, and minorities or marginalized people and poor, and so he has been saying repeatedly. Now, which sounds very reassuring that somebody like him, who has a background which is very contentious, and he's trying to revise his own this thing and tell people that he is here to look after everyone. Now,
but
despite all this, we see all around in the past 4-5 months some minor, some major incidents, and they are not confined to one region. They are actually spread to quite a large part of India, particularly North India, where you see things which normally you associate with contention, with tension, with all sorts of discomfort, and obviously. For people like us who are not political people, we immediately link it to the political change which we have gone through, and then we look at all these issues with the statements of the Prime Minister. So, in that situation, this particular situation which has,
are you saying the minorities are still in that area of mistrust or suspicion or
minorities actually,
discomfort?
Like lots of minorities have actually
Muslims
come around to the view that okay, we have to reconcile with a change. It's a political change in a democracy. These things happen, and the new government has come, and new government has assured them that it is a government for them as well.
Let me take that to Sudhanshu Trivedi. Sudhanshu Trivedi, you heard what Professor Habib is saying, that they take the Prime Minister's good intentions and good words at face value, and yet at the same time there's a degree of discomfort because, for instance, I think he's talking about what we've seen in Delhi over the last few weeks, where there's been some simmering tension in Trilokpuri, for instance, and some other areas. We saw what was happening before the by-polls in UP with reference to love jihad. So those things have made people a little uncomfortable, and the fact that, your top leadership didn't seem to, be silencing those voices that were making these statements. How would you respond to Professor Habib?
Actually, BJP believe in the concept of cultural nationalism, which is basic foundation is against the majoritarianism rule. If you look at India, it is the only country in the world which is having all the religion. Even Zoroastrians who are vanished from all over the world, which are here. I am not very, you can say, a learned person of Islamic matters, but India is the only country in the world which is having all these 72 sects of Islam, which is having the oldest church, which is the only country which has not discriminated with Jews. So, it is the cultural eternal ethos of India. But because of political consideration, there is a consistent effort to create a sense of fear in the minorities rather than the sense of confidence. And I strongly object to this language of what will happen to minority in the majoritarian rule. This is the same language which was used by Muslim League at the time of partition, when they termed Congress as a Hindu party, and they created a question mark what will happen to the minorities in the majoritarian rule. And if you look at the last 67 years, India is the only country in the world in which minorities say that there should not be any anti-conversion law. In the rest of the countries, minorities say that there should be an anti-conversion law because they fear that majority will try to convert them by using their influence, numeric influence and the government influence. Here the situation is vice versa.
I'll take that to Professor Habib. I mean, what Sudhanshu Trivedi is saying, that this whole language is problematic. Do you think it's problematic? Are we, or is he being too politically correct?
language.
About majoritarianism and minorities.
We may not use that language. Like, I don't think we have come to a situation where we can really say that minorities are actually in danger of
Being
danger of
drowned
lives
out.
being drowned. No, I don't really go along that. God forbid, things may change for worse in future. I'm not really predicting something like this will happen. It won't happen, but at the moment, I don't think there is something like that. But what Sudhanshu just said, that India has the oldest church and so many Muslim sects and all that, Islamic sects, etc., which is true, which is true. But all this has happened because we have lived really happily. India is a place which is a pluralist society. We built our country after independence on along certain values. A country got independence along with us and in our neighborhood, and we see what has happened over there, and we actually decided to go along a different trajectory.
And therefore, you mean to stick to that different trajectory.
So that particular trajectory should not be challenged, should not be questioned. The fears today in some people's minds are that there is an attempt to question that. So we are proud of that, and we have actually lived in that sort of India.
And Sudhanshu Trivedi, there was an interesting statistic I wanted to quote from you. Actually, a recent story that the Hindu newspaper had done, where they compiled the parliamentary statistics and found that there was just one Muslim among 151 ministers in BJP ruled states. I'm just reading off this graphic, which should be on your screens as well. And it has a state-wise breakup of just how many legislators there are. So just one Muslim ministers among 151 ministers overall in BJP ruled states. What do you think that statistic says to us?
I would like to slightly correct the statistics in one aspect.
Yeah.
In Rajasthan, the only Muslim MLAs are with BJP and the only Muslim minister is with BJP. Rest of the parties are having no Muslim MLA.
That's
now,
a good point.
Even if you are giving this statistics, I would like to say what happens, we choose the legislatures, MPs and ministers on the basis of the consistent work for the party and the support. I accept that there was a consistent effort to create a sense of fear in minority vis-a-vis BJP. So I am quite hopeful as we came in the power in the several states and we managed to create a sense of confidence. We will be able to create a sense of confidence during our rule at the center, and in the last rule, except for incidents of Gujarat in which they are having a different opinion. We are not having different opinion. They even cannot quote anything untoward happened for which so much hue and cry has been made when we were coming to power in 90s. So this is the consistent effort which BJP has proved by its character, by our administration, that we are not going to follow that. And one more thing I would like to quote. If precisely you call this a Hindu identity, because of this the fear is there. It is the Hinduism which gives you the message of benevolence. It is the only religion in which I would like to remind, when Bhagwan Ram has killed Ravan, still when he was lying on deathbed, he has sent his brother to get a teaching from him to respect the virtues of your opponent, even whom you have termed as a demon or devil, is a unique characteristic of the Indian culture or Hinduism.
Given the country's large Muslim population, would you concede that there should be greater representation of Muslims? I know the BJP's argument always has been about winnability, and certainly you have a certain constituency that you're addressing. But do you think the time has, I mean, look at the way you're reaching out to Muslim candidates in Jammu and Kashmir right now. It's unprecedented, but you're doing it. So do you think there needs to be, would you concede that there needs to be greater Muslim representation and that the BJP should be the party initiating it?
I hope and I appeal to the minorities that they should give a chance and try to have a certain faith in BJP, and we will prove. There is a great legacy of Muslim minority Muslims who have contributed to the country, but they have been marginalized in the history, right from Abdul Rahim Khan Khana to Ras Khan to Dara Shikoh to Ashfaqullah Khan to Abdul Hamid, but these chapters were not taught in the history. We give more importance to Afzal Guru and Yasin Bhatkal than to the contributions like Abul Kalam. So we want to create and divert the attention from the constructive, positive contribution given by minorities, and we hope that we will get in
Professor
response
Habib,
that confidence.
last word.
I don't agree that Afzal Guru is not part of Islamic history. It has nothing to do with Islam at all. And all these names you have listed, all of them actually are being taught in Indian history, and everybody knows who Ashfaqullah is. And in that case, like Bhagat Singh himself has been marginal till quite some time. So it's not that the history has been unfair to Ashfaqullah Khan. It's not because of religion. And I want to ask a little question. Like you have two ministers in the central government, Najma Hepatullah and Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, who
both
recently
are
joined.
after minority
And
affairs.
unfortunately, and I was surprised when Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi was given again minority affairs. Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi is a vice president of the BJP for the last so many years. He's one of the senior most leaders of the among Muslims in the BJP, and he was actually chosen to look after minority affairs alone. Why? Like, is he not competent to look after any other affair of the government?
You want to take that question? I mean, actually, that is a question that many people have raised, that, you know, should only ministers of a particular religion be looking after minority affairs? I mean, if you want to break new ground, you know, let somebody else do that job.
No, giving company affairs, giving industry.
Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi ji was a Minister of Information and Broadcasting in 1998.
That's true.
Shahnawaz Hussain has held more than 6 or 7 portfolios, from coal, power to civil aviation to food processing. So BJP has never tried to make any discrimination of this sort, and this is the prerogative of the Prime Minister, whom, with considering all the capabilities of the concerned member of Parliament, he can give the various portfolio to the ministers.
All right. Well, I have to leave it at that tonight, but it's been interesting to talk to both of you and have a civilized debate on what is normally a very sensitive issue. Thank you very much to Sudhanshu Trivedi and to Professor Habib for joining us on the program this evening. We'll have much more on the Hindustan Times Summit and the various themes on reshaping India for the rest of the week as well. Well, it's also been